And you found us. Welcome back to Chambers, Changes, and Conversations, where local government comes to life through leadership, learning, and lasting impact. I'm Communications Division Manager Casey Zempel, joined by Government Relations Director Stephanie Garrison. And today we are excited to welcome a commissioner whose career has been dedicated to protecting and uplifting our community's most vulnerable. Commissioner Amanda Ballard represents District 2, a dynamic area that blends established neighborhoods with growing communities. Before her election in 2022, Commissioner Ballard served as a child welfare attorney, advocating for children and families in crisis. She's carried that same passion into her work on the Manatee Board of County Commissioners, championing initiatives that combine practical solutions with compassion. We're happy to have her here today. Commissioner Ballard, welcome to Chambers, Changes, and Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so we mentioned it before. Before your election, you built your career as an attorney in the local child welfare system. How has that experience influenced the way that you approach decision making on the board?
Sure. So I spent my entire career prior to being elected as a child welfare attorney. So I worked for the Department of Children and Families representing the state of Florida in abuse and neglect cases. And I did that for almost a decade here in Manatee County. And it really impacts almost everything I do at the county level. And a lot of the things that I saw while working in the child welfare system were the reasons that I chose to run for public office. So one of the things that I started seeing very, very quickly when becoming involved in the child welfare system was a huge opioid crisis in our community. And Manatee County really, unfortunately, was the center of that opioid crisis about 10 years ago. And so I was seeing families just absolutely ripped apart. My generation absolutely decimated. I am proudly a millennial. And so I really realized that there were some gaps in the system, and people were not getting the kind of long-term care that they needed to actually recover from addiction. I started to see a whole lot of issues with housing affordability. A lot of the parents that we were serving and families that we were serving, they were working hard and doing everything that they'd been asked by the courts to do to kind of put their family back together. It is a rehabilitative court. But they were waiting 6, 7, 8 months to actually get their kids back after they'd done everything they'd been asked to do, just because they couldn't find a safe and stable place to live. So then I also, as I kind of progressed a little bit further, the affordability issues started getting even worse. And young attorneys that I was working with were actually saying after a year or two, I can't do this anymore. I can't afford to live here. And I started to really think, well, if these young attorneys who are supposed to be community leaders can't afford to live, then who can? You know, what about people who are working in service industries and things like that? So those issues really animated my my thinking and the reasons that I wanted to be a part of local government, because I saw those gaps and really thought that there were policy solutions that needed to be filled. And you know, when you're working as an on-the-ground attorney, you can make a lot of impact in individual cases. But I was always kind of looking at the larger picture and saying that there were more systemic changes that needed to happen.
Wow, that's an incredible background. Actually, it leads me into what we wanted to talk to you next about, which is the opioid crisis. And I know this is a particular passion point. You've already brought it up, so thank you for that. It's something that we know that we still have a lot of work to do, and we're going to talk about one of our biggest initiatives as well, Under One Roof. But I'm curious, since you've joined the board in 2022, what progress have you seen, and kind of where does it stand today, and what are we working on?
Sure. So we really... I really came onto the board at just the right time to try to make a major impact on this issue. It's difficult to find funding to address things like a drug crisis in your community. There are so many important initiatives that matter to everyone, and something like drug abuse tends to fall by the wayside. But I was extremely fortunate that when I came on board, we were actually just beginning to receive opioid settlement dollars. So the county participated in lawsuits and sued some of the manufacturers and distributors of the opioids that had caused so much crisis and pain in our community, and began receiving that settlement funding. And so that has given us an opportunity that we have never had before, a stream of funding that is not taxpayer funding, but is specifically meant to address that pain that the opioid crisis has caused in our community. And so I've had the ability, with my experience, looking at the system as a whole, the problems and the gaps that there are, to actually help to guide that funding into places that can really be impactful, and in places where previously there were really major gaps.
Can you identify some of those gaps, like specifically?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So a couple of things that really been missing in Manatee County is short-term shelter beds is one. So I represent probably one of the most urban districts in the county, and so I receive a lot of calls and issues with constituents about, people who are on the street, who are homeless, who don't have a place to go, people who are loitering, those kinds of things. And so, this is really, it's a quality of life issue for people within my district, but also, we have to address, the people who have been just on the street suffering with no real path to get better. So I saw that gap and immediately wanted to see what we could do to address the shelter crisis. And so one of the projects that we began immediately working on just about 2 years ago is a project that is going to be known as Under One Roof. That's a shelter for women. So right now, the county has really one short-term overnight shelter. It serves primarily men. They have a very small amount of space for women and families, and that's the Salvation Army. They're an excellent program. They do very good work. But previous to now, they have just been completely overloaded. They just don't have the space, and they don't have the resources to deal with the level of problem that we've had in the county. So the sheriff's office actually had a substation out in the Pride Park area that they decided to vacate, and it actually had been at one point a work camp. So it had been set up as a shelter type space in the past. And so Charlie Bishop, our county administrator, came to me when the sheriff vacated that building, and he said, "Amanda, I think there's a real opportunity here to work on this issue," and so we immediately kind of jumped into action and started rehabbing that building. And one of the things that I think families in crisis really struggle with, and women in crisis really struggle with, is the ability to get all of the services that they need, because everything is spread out around the county. And if you have a job and you have potentially transportation difficulties, if you have other responsibilities, it's really difficult to get to appointments, miles and miles apart from each other, especially if you're relying on the bus system. So one of the things that we wanted to do in this space was really bring all of the services that a woman would need to get her life back on track and put them all in one place, which is why we're calling the facility Under One Roof. And so that'll be available for up to 40 women. They'll be able to stay there for a month. And really what we're doing there is identifying the needs, starting to connect them with the community partners that we already have, that already exist, that are excellent at what they do, but they've been fragmented previously. So we're able to bring them all together, figure out what this woman needs, and then set her on her next step. So they have a month to say, you know what, mental health is a problem here. Substance abuse is a problem here. Maybe this woman's children have been removed from her care, and she needs to take a parenting class as part of her case plan. Or maybe this is just a woman who has kind of fallen on hard times. Maybe she's a little older, relies on Social Security income, and she's just been priced out. This gives an opportunity to sit back, take stock of what's going on, and actually start working to improve it. Over past years, we've had a lot of outreach to communities that are underserved and homeless, but a lot of times there wasn't a next step. So people who were on the street or close to being on the street, they kind of got a little bit jaded because, what does outreach mean if there's nothing backing it up? So, you can do outreach all day long, but if there's not a next step, then people lose interest pretty quickly.
And hope.
And hope, exactly. Mm-hmm. So this facility is really a first step in really a more comprehensive program that we're going to have throughout the county that is going to address both substance abuse, mental health, and homelessness. Because so many times those substance abuse issues, those mental health issues, that trauma underlies homelessness, and a lot of times you're not going to get to the root of it, and you're not going to solve it unless you've addressed those issues.
Yeah. And let's talk can we talk a little bit about maybe the partnership we've got with a national leader in this space, Helping Up Mission out of Baltimore, and what does that look like, them running the day-to-day, and how have they kind of been instrumental in helping us kind of clear that path towards success?
Sure. So one of the first relationships that we began to build once the opioid funds came in was with Helping Up Mission, and so one of the other gaps that we really identified early on, and that I had seen in my work over a decade, was a lack of substance abuse recovery, long-term substance abuse recovery. So we have 28-day programs. We have some detox programs. Unfortunately, those are overloaded as well. But what we don't have is something long-term. And so for people who have been in addiction for a fairly significant period of time, 28 days really is not enough to rebuild your life. And especially when you live in a place like we do, where rents can be expensive, it's hard for someone to come out and immediately go back into a regular life. And so we began seeking out opportunities for long-term addiction recovery. Through some real kind of serendipitous conversations, I ended up meeting with Mayor Dan Murphy, who was the mayor of the city of Anna Maria. And he shared just a really impactful story about what his family had gone through. And he shared that he had a close relative who had been in addiction for many, many years, had gone through treatment at our local addiction recovery center, Centerstone, 6-7 times, and had not been successful, and they knew that he needed something more long term. And so he found out about the Helping Up Mission program in Baltimore, which is really, truly a world-class program. It's a year-long program. All of their clinical services are through Johns Hopkins, and the really amazing thing about it is that it is absolutely free to participants. So it takes down so many barriers that people have to recovery. And, I think it's easy for people when they're in addiction to make excuses about the reason that they can't get into recovery. I can't get into recovery because it's too expensive. I can't get into recovery because I don't have a way to get there. And so we decided to go up to Helping Up Mission, see what they had going on, and kind of gather some best practices. We were just blown away by what they're doing there, the success that they're having, and truly the way that they're changing lives. And so at the end of that trip, we spoke with some of their leaders and said, look, we don't just want best practices from you. We want what you have, and how can we make that happen? So after we came back, we continued conversations with them, and we started to figure out that the best way to actually solve the problem here in Manatee County as quickly as possible and as economically as possible is to send Manatee County residents up to that world-class program that they already have in existence. So we had considered trying to replicate something like that here in Manatee County. Realized pretty quickly that there are a lot of barriers there. It costs a whole lot of money to build something like that from scratch, and it takes a whole lot of time. And we knew that we have a crisis now, and we have a crisis that's been going on for quite some time. And so we actually started last October sending Manatee County residents up to the Baltimore program. We have 2 outreach workers from Helping Up Mission on the ground here in Manatee County, and it has been amazingly successful thus far. We've actually sent 90 Manatee County residents up to the Baltimore program, and right now I believe they have a 78% success rate with our Manatee County residents, which if you know anything about addiction recovery, relapse rates, rates of people leaving recovery, for a year-long program, that is just absolutely astounding. And I think that one of the things that has been really successful, that we were a little unsure about at first, was the fact that they're leaving town.
Right.
I think that there is actually a greater commitment to recovery when you take that step and you step on a plane and you say, you know what, I am so rock bottom that I'm gonna
leave it all behind.
I'm leaving it all behind, and I'm ready to make that major step. So we're just absolutely ecstatic about that, the way that has gone.
I think for a lot of them, their addiction lives here, right? So,
Exactly.
So it's hard to maintain what you've worked so hard to earn and continue when everything, on that street corner is where I got, I scored a bag one day, or that's where I met up with a friend.
Is that what the kids say?
I think that's what the kids say. But Brian's story, you can see it if you're listening to this on our Facebook platform. Just do a search on Brian's story on the Manatee County government page, and you can see that story. Brian's a great guy.
We'll link to those videos for sure, as well as Helping Up Mission and Under One Roof. Something we've got to tell the community about, Commissioner, is what is happening in October with Under One Roof.
Yes. So I'll add a little bit more flavor there of the connection between Under One Roof and Helping Up Mission. So things were going so well with the relationship with Helping Up Mission that we actually selected them to run the day-to-day at our Under One Roof facility. And so we are just amazingly excited about that partnership, the opportunity to work with that truly world-class organization, to have them here in our county on a smaller scale, providing that shelter service to women in our community and getting them to that next step, whether that is long-term treatment in Baltimore or whether that's just getting them into housing right here
back on their feet.
in Manatee County, is really exciting. And so finally, after almost 2.5 years of work on Under One Roof, we will be having our ribbon cutting and open house. So, and then almost immediately, women will be able to move into that facility, and we'll be able to start getting people off the streets.
Yeah, it's so huge, and this is like what government's about, right? Don't you think? I mean, is this why you got into public office, to help people like this?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that part of it is helping people who maybe think that they're beyond help. And another part is improving the community for everybody, because a lot of people who live kind of in the urban core, who see people out on the street, who see that there's no help for them, it really makes people feel bad, and they think, what can I do as an individual to help this situation? Is it, it's been so fragmented, and I think that that's where government can step in and be a convener of those great organizations that already exist. Not that government needs to take over and be, the big fish here, but really convene the great programs that already exist and really be a connector to improve the community.
It's because Manatee County is not operating under one roof. You've already pointed out.
Yep.
And we're like you said, we didn't build our own Helping Up mission just yet here in Manatee County. We saw something working,
Right.
and we saw the cost-effective option to send them to Baltimore, and we've developed relationships and with best practices outside of Florida even. So I think it's an incredible example of innovation from the board and from champions like yourself.
Yeah, and I should mention, too, because I promised Drew up at Helping Up Mission, along with the day-to-day comes considerable staffing needs. If you want to be a part of the team restoring hope, if you want to be a part of the team rebuilding lives, they've got the jobs actually posted at helpingupmission.org. If you click on About Us in the Career Opportunities section, look for Gateway South. They're looking for anything from operations managers to security specialists. Be a part of that change, be a part of that hope right here in our community with the new Under One Roof Center.
Absolutely, yeah. If you have a passion for helping people to improve their lives, I can tell you that I don't think that there's a better, more impactful organization that you can work for locally. So we're really excited to have them.
So something that we have championed this year, too, as a Manatee County government is Fresh Start. So how does Fresh Start connect to Under One Roof and the work we've done with Helping Up Mission?
Sure. So again, one of the things that we have seen is that a lot of people who are on the street tend to be getting arrested a lot for low-level crimes. And the sheriff's office, unfortunately, they see a lot of these people. They know that they don't necessarily belong in jail. They would like to have an opportunity to put these people into a community care court. So a court where they can, again, help them solve their problems and become successful members of society. But unfortunately, if there's not a shelter, if there's not a place for people to actually stay while they improve their lives, they can't improve and expand that program. We do have that program existing now. There's just a real lack of space for people to live and to go. And unfortunately, if you try to put someone into a community care court when they don't have a home, we lose track of them. And the project just really is not successful. And so what we are going to do in partnership with our sheriff's office is we're working on a program called Fresh Start Manatee. That will be our overnight shelter, as well as a huge expansion of our community care court program here in Manatee County. So again, the day-to-day will be run by the sheriff's office. So everything is going to be safe. Everything is going to be a situation where both the people who are living there as well as the residents surrounding can feel comfortable. There aren't going to be people just hanging around the outside, and so we're very, very excited about that program, and it's going to provide an opportunity for so many people to change their lives. So that is going to be in the Samoset area. The plan is to utilize our old Public Works building for that. And it will be based on a model that's very similar to a program that's called Safe Harbor, which is run by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and has been very, very successful there. And so, again, one of the things that we're really focused on is cleaning up downtown, getting people off the street, allowing for economic development and really blossoming of that downtown area, because right now a lot of businesses feel that they can't relocate. Mm-hmm. They can't do as well as they could because there are people hanging around on the streets. And so we really want to clean that up. We want to give people the opportunity to change their lives, and we want to provide safety and security for our residents. And so Fresh Start is going to be a huge part of that, and hopefully we'll be up and running with that program in about a year and a half.
And that's a location that was identified and opportunity made available by our new move to 9000 Town Center Parkway. So freeing up that Public Works building opened up a whole new opportunity for a different group of people. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, and the last really exciting thing about the Fresh Start program is that it will actually allow our Salvation Army shelter to transition into serving entirely intact families. So right now there's a very limited amount of shelter space for families in Manatee County. And I have seen over and over and over again families that were really right on the edge. They had some major problems, but if they had a safe, stable place to be to work through those problems, maybe those kids wouldn't end up in foster care, which is something that we'd absolutely like to avoid, if at all possible, because all the statistics show that that when kids do end up in foster care, the outcomes are significantly worse. So the Salvation Army shelter will actually be able to serve up to 26 families at a time.
Wow.
And again, it really goes into partnering with the city and making sure that area around Salvation Army is cleaned up, that everyone feels comfortable, and really allowing for that revitalization of Bradenton.
So it's all connected. I mean, what's so cool about these projects is with one enablement, you're allowing others to go further too. So it's a really impressive trajectory of just the work you began years before you were a commissioner. Now you're connecting it to that broad picture that you set out to do. So I think that's really cool. To switch gears a little bit, I would love to talk a little bit about community gardens.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
In fact, I do. So, aside from my work in child welfare and in the kind of addiction recovery side of things, I'm really passionate about food, about fresh local food, about strengthening families, and about giving people the skills to do things for themselves. So I grew up in a big gardening family. Everybody in my family always had a huge vegetable garden. So it's how I grew up. It's something I always enjoyed. I know how therapeutic it is. And actually, when I graduated law school, my husband and I, we didn't have money for a honeymoon. And so instead of taking a traditional honeymoon, we drove up the coast from Florida to Maine, staying with friends along the way, and actually worked on a farm for a summer. And so we were waiting on our bar results, thought we'd never be able to do anything like this ever again. And so we did it. We actually built our own little 12 by 12 cabin in the woods, no power, and lived completely off the grid and worked on a farm for a summer. I will tell you that it taught me a lot about myself, in that I love agriculture. I love policy. Related to those things, I love fresh local food, but I have a new respect for farm workers, and it is not something that I could do long term. But that's just to say it is absolutely a long-term passion project. And when I came on at the county, I realized that we had these really small pockets of land in some cases that didn't really have a use that made sense. And so there were a couple of constituents that came to me and they said, "Hey, what do you think about a community garden right here?" And I said, "You know what? I absolutely love the idea." And so I kind of jumped on it immediately. And we realized pretty quickly that not only is it a good use for those little tiny pieces of land that nobody really has a use for, but also compared to building a park or almost anything else, it's extremely cost effective. And so where building a park or working on a park could cost millions of dollars, you can actually create a community garden for less than $100,000. And so really cost effective, and also provides such a great opportunity for people in the community to get together in a different way, to work together, to learn to cooperate together. I think it's so important that we get out in the community, know our neighbors, work with our neighbors, because I think that's really what strengthens a community and makes it resilient, is that that cooperation of people working together. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about community gardening and really want to see it increase as much as possible all over the county.
So recently, the board passed unanimously the Mixon Farm purchase. So how might community gardens be incorporated into that?
Sure. So I think that community gardens will be a huge part of the Mixon property. So one of the things that we've been talking about and is part of the plan is something, again, that I've noticed over many years is that a lot of people, younger people, they're very interested in agriculture. They're very interested in those old skills like preserving and fermenting and learning to do those things for themselves that that the older generations had, but for some reason they weren't passed down. And so many young people, they want to learn these things. They want to learn how to farm and garden, but they can't afford the land. So what we'd like to do on at least a portion of the Mixon property is to parcel it out into little micro farms, just 1 to 2 acres, and give people the opportunity, lease those out, and give people the opportunity to try their hand at running a small farm. And so really it's like a small business hub, but specifically for agriculture. And I will tell you, I've had so many people in the community come to me and just say that they're immensely excited about this. We're going to be working with some of the schools. We're working on a partnership with New College for some internships there. We're going to be working with FFA and 4-H. Probably going to be working with the schools as well. So people throughout the community are really going to be part of this from the beginning, and we can really make it exactly what the community wants it to be. Another thing that I'm really excited about on the Mixon property is preserving that history and heritage of citrus growing in Manatee County, because it's so important to so many people, and I think that if we forget our history, it's really at our own peril. And as our community grows, as it changes, it's so important to know where we came from, why we're here, and how important agriculture and citrus particularly have been historically to this area. So I do want to see a little heritage citrus grove somewhere on the property, and I think we'll have a little walk-through path with some placards, just kind of like a living museum, a literal living museum that tells people about the history of the citrus industry in this area of Florida.
That's awesome. So getting back maybe to the you said allowing people to maybe lease an acre or two. What does success look like for that program, like long term? What do you foresee as being the real benefit to programs like that being readily made available to the public?
Number one, we can support our agricultural heritage, show support for what we have been, but also train the next generation of people who are interested in agriculture, who are interested in conservation. And so when you raise up a new generation, give them those skills on the front end, maybe that provides us with an opportunity for more conservation, for generational farming, for those agricultural areas that stay agricultural, because we do have a next generation that's trained, that's ready, that wants to do this kind of work. That is ultimately my wild-haired dream. But if nothing else, it provides concrete skills that people can use in their everyday lives. You know, growing food, preserving food, becoming more self-sufficient, I think is good for everybody. It develops grit, it develops character, it's therapeutic. So even if that is the only benefit, I consider it absolutely a win.
Did you do canning when you were younger? Canning with grandma?
I did.
Yeah.
What'd you can?
Yeah.
So we did. We always did jellies and jams.
Oh yeah.
But actually, we did a lot of chow chow. Are you familiar with chow chow?
No. What is chow chow?
So I grew up in upstate South Carolina, kind of near the mountains, and it is a very popular relish. And
spicy or not spicy?
It can be either. There's a spicy or a mild, and it's typically used with green tomatoes as a basis, but you can use almost anything. So it's very sour. It can be spicy, and it's typically served with like beans and cornbread.
Okay.
Yeah, pinto beans and cornbread.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to have some chow chow next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Bring some in, please. I'd love to try some.
You know what? My mom cans it every summer, so I'm sure I can get her to send me some.
Is it minced like a pico de gallo or something?
Is.
Okay.
It is. It's minced, it's canned, and it's sour and a little spicy.
All
It's
right.
very, very good.
See,
a little sweet, too.
I'm from the north. We did a lot of sauerkraut, so we would cabbage and shred it and the whole 9 yards, and beans and even venison. We've canned venison before, which
Really?
is...
I've never canned meat. I've heard
Canned meat.
Canned meat. Well, yeah. I mean, it's good. I mean...
Is it like spammy or?
A little bit, because after it sits in the can for a while, I mean, it's like pull apart, you know. It's good. In a pinch, it'll work.
I love food, so I will try it.
I'm a big fan of venison. My father-in-law brings stuff down.
It sounds like
every
pate
year, so.
at this point.
It is. It's very much got that pate-like consistency,
Okay.
especially
I like
if it's
pate.
been in the can for a couple years.
Don't talk about how many years it's been.
Well, I am also a huge venison fan.
Yeah.
So
that's all I have. My father-in-law, they harvest probably anywhere from 10 to 18 deer per year up in Wisconsin. He's a snowbird, so he brings down every year, and we make jerky and roasts and good stuff for the crock pot.
Yeah, growing up, I probably ate venison over beef 80% of the time. So.
Same here.
Yep.
I was raised on it. I love it. I don't know, the tenderloin. I don't know. People have a tendency to overcook it.
They absolutely do. But if it's cooked properly, nice and rare, it's
see,
amazing.
I'm the same way.
Yep.
So next podcast should maybe have a cooking show element to
Sure.
it. Maybe
I'm
we could
into that.
that'd be all right.
We can do that. So I have to ask about District 2. Like, who makes up District 2? What does District 2 care about? If you were explaining this to those outside of Manatee County, tell us about your district.
Sure. So District 2 is very, very diverse. And I bet that every commissioner that you have on will say that about their district. For District 2, it's very, very true. So I go from Manatee Memorial Hospital out to I-75, Tom Bennett Park, and then I stretch down to Oneiko and Samoset. And then I also have Palmetto and Southern Ellington. So it's a real mix. So you have these lovely downtown areas, people that border the water. I don't have too many gated communities, that kind of thing. It's really older, established neighborhoods. Some areas that need redevelopment, and you know, there's some areas that have really felt underserved for a long time. And so that's one reason I'm so passionate about getting things done for these residents, because so many people have told me that they felt like basically there was help for West Bradenton, there was help for Lakewood Ranch, there was help for Parrish, but nobody really thought much about District 2 or the urban core. And I never want my constituents to feel that way. I want them to know that, you know, whether you're in Elwood Park, whether you're in Samoset, whether you're in Oneiko, whether you're in Palmetto, whether you're in Ellington, I am thinking about all of you. I'm thinking about these neighborhoods individually, their needs, their wants, their desires, because Elwood Park is a historic farming community that's right in the middle of town. So it's a very different needs and wants than you know, people in downtown Palmetto. And so you really can't look at it with a broad brush, because there are so many wonderful different communities within the district.
Oh, yes, and that sound means we have reached our lightning round. Commissioner, fast answers to the following quick questions. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
World famous lightning round. Chambers Changes Conversations. Here we go. A book or children's story that stayed with you since childhood.
The Velveteen Rabbit.
First job you've ever had.
I worked at Pizza Hut.
A hidden gem in District 2 that everybody should visit.
Braden Castle.
Your go-to coffee or tea order.
If I'm at Starbucks, I like the brown sugar oat milk shaken espresso.
Okay. Wow, that sounds like...
Very millennial.
Very, very millennial. I am a girl of my time in some ways.
If you had one free Saturday, where in Manatee County would you spend it?
I might go up to the Ag Museum in Palmetto, kind of roam around with the kids, go over to the park next door, and then we'd probably go back to Bradenton, go to the historical village there, and then have a nice dinner downtown.
It's perfect. A community event that you would never miss.
Used to be Mixon's at Christmas. They would have it set up so that the kids could go and meet Santa at Mixon's, and we always loved that.
Most inspiring place you've ever traveled?
Probably Copenhagen, Denmark.
In one word, what drives your work as a commissioner?
Passion.
And in one word, your hope for Manatee County's future?
Progress.
Ding, 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 ding. Congratulations. You've survived the lightning round. Yeah. Commissioner, we really appreciate all your time. And you're obviously a very active commissioner. You're constantly listening to your constituents, trying to turn those into, real policy change. How do people get a hold of you if they want to bring something to your attention?
Sure. So I would say that the absolute best, easiest way is email. I am super, super, super responsive on email. And if you want to come to my office or you want me to come out to you, I am always happy to do that. If you need to show me something that's going on in your community in person, I'm very happy to do it. I do it all the time. So yeah, just email me, amanda.ballard@mymanatee.org, and you can get me almost immediately. Or you can also call the office and schedule with my assistant, and that's pretty easy as well.
Yeah, and you got a great assistant, too?
I do, Cindy Nelson.
Cindy, yeah. Shout out to Cindy.
Shout out to Cindy.
And that just about does it for this episode of Chambers, Changes, and Conversations. Once again, thank you, Commissioner Ballard, for your expertise and for doing work that matters. If you've got a topic or person you would like us to feature, yes, Larry, we hear you. We will be reaching out to EMS. Sean Dwyer, he wants us to interview him, so we're listening, Larry. If you want to be like Larry and make a recommendation, reach us by email or comment on this post.
And since you bring that up, Casey, I do want to let everyone know we are reaching out to all our constitutionals. We're reaching out to key people in Manatee County government. We're also reaching out to our delegation and folks who really help the county achieve things as a government. So we've got a couple of really cool guests coming up once we've gone through our commissioners. And I want to thank you so much, Amanda Ballard, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And on behalf of the people behind the scenes doing work that matters for you, I'm Casey Zempel.
I'm Stephanie Garrison.
And I'm Amanda Ballard.
Make it a great day to live, work, and play in Manatee County. The opinions expressed by guests of Chambers, Changes, and Conversations do not necessarily reflect those of Manatee County government or its employees.